deal with that kind of situation. Because if in the future, maybe the technical skill of you and the semi-professional CTO and also the developer will be increased, right? Maybe in the 1 year, 2 years later, so you can check the older code. You can understand, okay, this part is really bad implementation. So who wrote this one? Oh, me? Or some kind like that. So at that case, you can just overhaul that part. So maybe you can rely on in the future with you.
Okay. So initial years are going to be painful.
Sorry?
So initial years will be painful with the bucket code.
Yeah. Sometimes so it's sometimes we have no time or we have enough skill. So sometimes we need to go ahead with the current situation. So it might be acceptable.
Question?
Hello, Wes. When you start a new project, for example, and knowing that you don't have much budget, so how can you ask people to join you? How can you ask them? How can you inspire them? For example,
that's an important question.
So because we want to start something, but still it's difficult for us to ask people to join and to code for us.
My way of the attracting, so it means how to attract the people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in my experience, I'm in the past, I worked as a freelance, and I mainly helped the startup company.
Yeah.
So sometimes that company only have the business person and don't have CTO or some other people, the technical people. So I will help join to that team temporarily to working as a temporary CTO. So at that time, to attracting the people, the first turn is me. So I try to find a good resource on the web or my friend network and making a list of the good developer. But the attract the people is not my task. It's the task of the CEO or the project owner, because they only can explain how much this project is interesting with a strong passion, right?
But you know, for a startup, we have a small team member, so sometimes we also have a small budget. So still, for example, me, I have some idea, and sometimes I ask people to join, but they are not willing to join. For example, just as for several days, they are really want to join.
I think the only one guy who can attract the people is that for the startup is the project owner. The guy who has the most strong passion for the product, right? Because if you start a product, start building a product, you surely believe that this product must be successful, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are the only guy who can attract the others. How it is interesting, how it can be beat other competitors, and so on. So your only weapon is your talk, right?
Okay, thank you.
One more?
I have a question. You talk about the KISS principle, and as it seems contradict with the way that you said we should expect the future, prepare something for the future. But it means you prepare the future.
Okay.
This make the more complex, make the system more complex. So how can you balance it?
Maybe the flexibility is. I think the simple means not mean the code itself makes short, a small code, but still you can write more write the code as a simple, because you can divide the logic to the several classes and modules or some kind like that to make the module become smaller, simpler, right? So there is the one important concept I didn't explain is that each module, each classes should have only one responsibility, right? Single responsibility principle. So that makes the code really simple. But still, it can be flexible because each responsibility have separated with another module. So you can easily read the code because it only have the one responsibility, and also it can be switchable because all the code is important will be separate. You understand?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Okay. I think you can Google that principle. I think you can understand what this is.
So time is limited, so we gonna move to the next part. And the next part is the presentation of Hajime, the CTO from Singapore. So let's give him a call.
Hello. Okay, let's start my session. Actually, I'm from Cinnamon. I'm from Singapore. I'm Japanese, living in Singapore, and I have a company in Vietnam, Hanoi. So it's a three national base. So I want to explain a bit more about the management side. So maybe the coding is a very fundamental technical things, and my explanation is more about the business planning or something, but as a CTO. So going to the next slide. So I just see some of the US trends that some of the engineers talent is not called as CTO, but basically, for example, even a founders team, they're just assigning as maybe a CEO and a VP of marketing and a VP of engineering. This is a kind of recent trend. And one is that this is actually very different in terms of the role. So I'm just classifying the two layers. The one is a board of directors. This is actually a definitive term, right? So this is as a director, I should do something. But you need to understand deeply about what is the direction. Okay? And follow the company directions, and then management of the engineer is actually the role for the VP of engineering. So as a startup, if the size is very small, of course the CTO need to be also a VP of engineering. So that is how, for example, myself, of course, because my company is very small, yeah, so I need to do both roles. So I'm doing the code review, and of course I need to find which platform to choose, and also we need to be very highly involved in which way to go as a company, as a director. So next slide. So my focus of this talk is not about the VP of engineering, but this is a very important skill as a CTO as well, of course. But I'm focusing on more on the management side. Okay, the next slide. So I just want to make a little bit about myself, introduction. My name is Hajime Ota. Again, I'm from Japan. I live in Singapore, and I operate a development company in Hanoi. And I originally graduated from a PhD of computer science, and after that I went for the postgraduate course in Silicon Valley for 1.5 years. After that, I came back in Japan, and I did 2 startups. The one is sold to Yahoo Japan, the other is sold to another largest social network company in Japan. And so I have a sort of confidence as a CTO. Actually, this startup is actually, I'm a number 2 or 3, because I know I'm not a CEO type, I'm not a representative type, so I'm more on the back-end side, and then I just work on the tech side, and also I'm more contributing to business strategy, for example. And finally, because I made a very, very tiny success in the entrepreneur when I was in Japan, I made a little bit of fund, and then I made in total 9 investment in a Southeast Asian startup. Actually, 5 out of 9 is in Vietnam. 2 Ho Chi Minh and 3 Hanoi. But wherever I talk with the Vietnam founders, I found a very critical problem. This is, everyone is too local. You know, because I'm a foreigner, maybe this is one of the problems, but everyone is focused on Vietnam, or everyone have a kind of dream to go out of Vietnam after successful case made in Vietnam, right? So basically everyone is starting from Vietnam, and then after that, because for example, I'm an Airbnb for something, and then I made a bit of like traction in Hanoi first, and then oh, it's good. So apply the same things to Ho Chi Minh, and then after that, trying to go to Thailand or Indonesia. But of course, in some cases it's true, but in my experience, you have to be in a global wide vision first. And then you need to calculate a lot about how to extend your business to from Vietnam to outside, even before starting your business. And then logically thinking about which country to go first. Then if it does make sense, of course you can choose the Vietnam as a first market. But you shouldn't do, okay, so because it's easy, or because it's the market is very easy to access. That's why I just start Vietnam tentatively. But maybe in the future, if I get a lot of money, and then I want to expand. So you shouldn't do that. So the problem found in Vietnam is, again, is too local. So next slide. So how to become a global scale tech company? This is the main topic that I want to talk about. But you forget about this concept, because I know that everyone wants to be a global scale tech company right now, right? And then, because of the lots of realities accumulated, you maybe forget about that, or you maybe you may compromise your vision. But so my approach for the global tech company here is not to think of how to make your business global, because maybe your vision is already very global, but not to compromise your business. So for more detail, this is the main message I want to tell. Getting smaller and smaller if you face with the reality. For example, because here most of you guys are maybe Vietnamese, right? So of course it's pretty hard to enter to the U.S. market now. So this is a reality. So maybe you need to think of how to go to the U.S. market, or when, or how much money you need. So this is a reality, and then raising the money is a bit hard because here's Vietnam. So who will invest in 1 million right now? Or maybe it's possible. So maybe only thing that we can do is maybe starting from Vietnam. So this is like the accumulation of the reality. And then finally, I want to bootstrap my business in Vietnam first with my limited personal saving. And then of course, not a lot of things can be done. So starting from this kind of very tiny model, this is the reality. And again, my angle is, this is next. Don't step the process of being a small guy. And I want to explain 3 must-know things instead of talking about the 3 must things as a global CTO. Okay, so the one is, this is actually the main message that I want to talk about, is the team compromise. So typical mistake is actually, it's not readable. And starting, it's okay. Starting a business from maybe a friend, right? Because you ask about how to attract the talents is very difficult. So maybe it's even difficult in Vietnam. That means maybe you cannot attract the US guy, right, at the first day. But, so what's happening in the reality is, in my experience, engineers, for example, 2 engineers start a company right now, and then engineers want to learn, want to try hard to learn about the marketing, and then do the marketing by the engineers. But you know, there is a talent in the world, right? So if you compromise your team members, in terms of marketing, for example, of course you cannot be a global scale company because there are millions of talents in the marketing, and you are maybe below average in the top tier startups. So this is a very big problem. And the second thing is, for example, not talented business talent. So this is a very many cases I've faced it because you're an engineer. So if talking with some like a top university grads, which is a non-tech university, then maybe you might feel that, oh, he's a talent because his English skill is better than me. So maybe he's more international than myself, right? But you shouldn't do that. So my suggestion here is this is a very serious one. Be ready to spend at least 1 year to find a real Superman who want to work with you. So you shouldn't think like, I want to start this business. This is a great idea. It's the right time to do it. So if you hurry up finding some of the guy who collaborate with you, maybe it's a team formation is very easy, but maybe in most of the cases it's a B team or a C team. In most of the cases, it's not an A+ team. So you need to be very ready to find the Superman. Actually, I am just a CTO, and now the current my co-founder, his name is Miko, also in Japan. She is also a serial entrepreneur, but she is 100 times better than my presentation skill. So I cannot do the presentation to the investors because if I do, my valuation is 2 million. If she do the presentation, 8 million. So it's very fast, very fast. This is the real fact. So, but if you find some of the CEO, as a CTO, again, who is not good at the presentation, your valuation is maybe half or even below, right? This is the opportunity loss, and how come it can be big, right? So my suggestion again is spend at least 1 year. So be ready. Of course, okay, I'm very ready to find a Superman. To spend 1 year to find, and then day 2, Superman's here, and then it's okay, of course. But if you feel that maybe he's not good, maybe he's good, I'm not sure, then maybe he's not a man to collaborate with. Next slide. The second is, this is actually a lot of cases I've faced, either as an entrepreneur and also as an investor. There's no monetization thing. And so maybe you feel that, of course, nobody knows about you, right? So you want to promote your product as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. So maybe take an easy way to start something. So maybe it's a very typical way is to make a free version or a very, very low cost version. And then you have dreamed that, maybe after the expansion, maybe the pricing could be higher than now. But now, because we don't have any of the brands, so we should compromise the pricing, for example. But this is a typical mistake. So next slide. This is the reality. You know, this is an affordability by the clients, and this is like the histogram. It's basically an early adopter. Again, there are a lot of clients, and only maybe 1% or 2% of the early adopter can use your tool, right? But they have a very high demands on your product. if your product is right. And then their affordability to your solution or service or whatever is very high. And the reality is, if you want to expand to the next level, actually, the affordability is lower. They're getting lower and lower and lower. So maybe, for example, my case, I made Unity kind of things for feature font when I was in the second startup. And then I sold this library to a big company who has a strong pain for that. And actually, $30,000 per month. But I did a lot of interviews with small to medium guy, and they say that they can spend only $100. So this is the reality. So some of the company say that, oh, okay, it's pretty comfortable for us to spend the $30,000. But a lot of the majority of the company is saying like $100 is too expensive already. Then what should we do is, of course, rather than aiming at this kind of like a light guys, of course we should focus first on the really, really demanding guy, right? And then starting from the freemium or starting from free, and then gradually engaging them to like bring up the pricing is actually nonsense. It's a reverse. It's an opposite way to do it. And if we start like it's $100, this is an opportunity loss. Right? And also, we're not sure whether this is viable or not, because they are okay to spend $30,000, but we just charge $100. So this, of course, this guy is okay, but maybe these guys, they're not comfortable. Then maybe this problem itself is not attractive at all for everyone. So again, the next slide. Monetize first. This is a very important things for maybe especially for the enterprise software or the SaaS software or some like POS guys or something. The starting from free is maybe it's easy to start because a lot of users. Then maybe you're faced with the reality that but the monetization is very high. So this is a second mistake. The third one is a small thinking. So typical mistake is a niche product plan to small market. And then next slide. But you know, maybe you must know this fact that the venture capitalists here in Southeast Asia is interested in only potentially $100 million valuation for exit. If the projection of your revenue is below, nobody get interested. Even if you have a lot of traction and you are already profitable. 100 million is a minimum. And the reality here is in Japan, it's even higher. Maybe a 300 million is a minimum. And in the US, obviously a $1 billion valuation is a minimum. If the capitalists cannot see the forecast of the projection, the financial projection to be in that size, nobody get interested in it. So this is the fact that you must know. So again, actually, when I was in the US, one of my mentors was Atmos CEO. Maybe Atmos was, maybe you know, right? Acquired by the Google in 2010 or something. He told me a lot of times that actually the efforts needed to make a business is actually same. Same means maybe the business A is maybe the maximum business size is 50 million. The business B is the maximum business size could be like a 5 billion. But the most of the efforts is kind of same because startup is pretty hard to do. Then just to use your intelligence to make at least a 100 million plus valuation company is basically what you need to do. Even before starting the startup, you have to calculate how. And this is actually, it's pretty hard for most of the people to do, but if you didn't talk with any of the mentor, but actually there are a lot of mentors, especially outside Vietnam, for example, in Singapore or US. But you need to find some guy who are interested in investment. For example, myself is very happy to talk with the entrepreneurs who are aspiring this size. But maybe I'm very critical. Maybe some of you guys know that I am not interested at all in below 100 million size of the business plan. And then again, so what is the size of the 100 million size valuation? It's very easy to calculate. So this is a SAM. This is the market size. And for example, maybe the maximally you can take a 30% of the market size. This is the expected annual revenue you can make in, for example, 5 years. And then this 6 is a magic number to calculate the correspondence of valuation of the annual revenue. This is a 6x. This is actually proven by the Nasdaq, for example. So if we aim at the 100 million size valuation, we need to make at least 16.6 million revenue per year. So you need to imagine that, oh, okay, so you're selling $30 per month product. Then of course you can calculate how many of the clients do you need to prepare. And then you need to make a breakdown of how is the growth curve. And then you can calculate very precisely about if you have like 10 clients, and then next month, 11 clients. But the real pace that you have to improve is maybe 100 clients down. And then of course this product is not viable. Even though there are a lot of clients, but if the pace is too slow, then maybe the approach itself is not correct. So again, this is maybe you have to remember this exact number. 16.6 million US dollar by 5 years, and you need to make a projection on an Excel file. Otherwise, maybe your business is not viable. So again, the third thing is the suggestion is plan out 100 million size worth business plan. And again, maybe this sounds like a CEO way, but actually my experience is that CEO is very good at talking and attracting people. But actually majority of the cases, CTO is smarter than CEO. So, but it's very logical and introvert. So actually, I'm not good at presentation, but I'm very good at the strategy or very good at thinking of these things that the execution-wise CEO is doing. So this is a reality of the startup team because we cannot have a multiple things. And so again, even as a CTO, you have so if rather as a CTO, you should think like you have to be smarter than a CEO, and because CEO is always very busy to talk with some other guys, so CTO rather have the time to think more deeply about the project or the product business plan. So you need to be very responsible for the direction of the company, and then you need to know about what to do, and not stepping in those 3 mistakes to really make a very good plan. Okay, so the final conclusion is 3 things. The one is a team formation. We should spend time for A+ team, otherwise you fail. The second thing is monetize first, or you fail. Or try maybe a 1 year, 2 year to make $1 million US, and then not expandable anymore, or too old. Of course, you die, right? So monetize first is very important. The third one is a plan a 100 million size market first. This is conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. So do you have any questions? You raised hand first, sorry.
Okay, everyone, my name is Thank you for the presentation. So I have a question for you, but not for you today, because we have first a technical presentation and then let's say management presentation. And so I would like to know so what you work like as a CTO, and what's your daily or weekly schedule. And I mean, do you spend all your time to manage people, or do you have some time to coding? Maybe it's different from your work. And also, maybe it's a second question that to bring the technical vision, but to keep updates about the new technology, the new software.
Okay, it's a question about maybe one of the very interesting questions, daily schedule of your life. So maybe answering by myself first, for daily things, I'm spending a lot of time for the communication actually. So I'm rather, of course, as a CTO, of course, I need to be communicating with about the product as well as I need to communicate with the CEO about what to do, and also I need to communicate with the development members about what to do. So I'm basically focused on the communication hub. So after I get it out, actually I'm sometimes very lazy to do the code reviewing, but actually in the weekend actually I have a time. I'm free because everybody's taking a day off. So I'm free to make the code reviewing, but during the daytime, actually I'm too busy to communicate with someone, always. So, so my life is like 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. p.m. Basically I'm Slack, on Slack. Yeah, and after that I'm starting coding, for example, if I need, or after that I'm talking with an engineer for an interview if I need, or I say it's more conceptual talk with the CEO, C-level. And the weekend, I'm more spending on the tech thing.
For me, that's daily schedule, right?
Daily schedule.
Okay. So actually, he said that the main time for the technical things is the weekend. I'm doing that early in the morning. So every day I woke up at 3 to 4 a.m. Surprising. It's really good for you too, so I recommend to do that. some guy will go to bed at the same time. Still. So because at that time no one is awake, right? So no one disrupt me at all, so I can focus on the things I want to do. So at that time, I'm doing the coding until 6:30, and then I start eating the breakfast. So the first 2.5 hours, 2 to 3 hours, is the most important time. So after that, I also doing a lot of things about more like management things or communicating things. I also on the Slack on the whole daylight on the from maybe from 9 to 9, I don't know. So and also I also use the weekend for making the new things or doing the code review. But still the daytime in the weekend I need to spend time with my son or with my family. So the most important time of me is the early morning. Yeah, so instead of that, you need to sleep, go to bed earlier, right? So I'm going to bed with my son, actually. So maybe it might be 9 to 10. Yes. But the productivity will be higher in the morning, so it might be better.
Another question?
Yes, just question was what do you keep, what do you stay updated about the new technology, the process, in the software, because to build an technical vision for your company or whatever. past, and 5 years after, it's a new technology, maybe 2 years later. How do you keep updated? Do you read paper? Do you have special website? Or
Okay. My approach is actually very simple. The one is actually because catching up with the new thing is not my strength. So I rely on him. So because he's posting a lot of a very new the good news. Actually, this is a kind of half joke but half serious because we need to join some of the community. What is a top tier engineer community, and then of course a lot of competition on the very advanced level will be made. So actually, instead of just, of course some of the guys can catch up very early, quickly, but sometimes we're not good at it. For example, like me, then they just join the community and a lot of the information coming from my friend. And this is a very social approach, but this is very efficient.
Okay, so for me, I always recommend to my team members that should read more than 100 global news per day. Not per day actually. So you need to add more than 100 tech blog or tech news site to your RSS reader and check it on every day. Because of course many new technology will not related with the developer's current job, right? But still, you need to check at least at the title. So of course you cannot check all the blogs in detail, but still you can check all the titles. And maybe if you think the one of that will be interested in, so you can see the video. But still, I think that it's better for the knowing the new technology. The information shower might be important.
And actually in Japan, there's a very good community site focused on the developers. So a lot of people are writing blogs about a lot of things, at a very detailed level to a very high concept level. And actually just following this community is a very good way. But actually in Vietnam, I don't think there is a similar one. But I know at least a friend of us try to create this kind of community. So I'm hoping that maybe also in Vietnam, if that community is ready, you just join it actively working on writing and reading, and then you can catch up more much faster than it used to be.
I have a question for Mr. Hajime. Actually, I don't understand clearly about your second advice about monetize first. Because what about WhatsApp? It's a premium. It's premium. You have to pay 1 year after you use it.
Okay. So of course there is a lot of cases of maybe the premium or no revenue for 5 years is still viable. This is true, and you should know that this is a 1% of the exceptional case. And yes, most of the cases, at least from the Southeast Asia, basically monetization first will be the very best way to go. It's obvious because what is the recent seed round minimum requirement for you is profitable and the revenue $10,000 at least for a month, and then you can make a 1 million valuation. This is a reality, and this is a common sense in all the venture capitalists, at least the top tier venture capitalists in Southeast Asia, like Golden Gate Ventures. So I invested in Lozi or Beacon, both already made on that level. Before that, of course, they cannot raise money. So you know that, and then what's happening? If you are 1% of the very exceptional case, you have to be Superman, right? Because for VC, of course, it's an exceptional case. You don't make any of the revenue, but maybe these guys can be very big. And then typically, and you can deeply more analyzing the real business. The guys who raise the money for the non-revenue model, it's basically a serial entrepreneur at least. Otherwise, maybe nobody trusts you. So you need to have a very clear vision, or you have to be a serial entrepreneur first, or you should make the revenue.
Thank you for your presentation. I have two problems I want to ask to Mr. Engineer. Besides the three things merge not do, is there other thing merge not do? And the second problem is, I know that you have two successful startup projects, right? Before these two successful projects, did you have any other project? And in my situation, what should I do if I fail one or twice times with my startup project?
Okay. So for the first question, I have maybe another 1,000 things that you must not do. So maybe I don't have the time to explain about that. So it's a very more like a case-by-case kind of things. And second question, actually, luckily, of course, I made a final success, but inside the success, I made a lot of failure. You know, I needed to fire most of the members in the second startup because of the cash crisis, cash problem. I mean, cash shortage. And I made maybe 200,000 US dollar debt. And then you can understand that I have a 200,000 US dollar debt. I don't have a revenue, but I want to raise a $1 million. It is the real problem that I faced. And then the timing is just after the financial crisis in 2008. This is the start. And actually, I was just engaged for the part-time guy. And then I just dive into this startup to make a turnaround. And so I made a lot of failure, but maybe I must say that you should not give up until you made a success. Then everything is good, turning into the success. Right? So even in that situation, so it's like my company valuation is minus 200,000 US dollars, but still I can make a success. So this is a mindset. I don't conclude this start as a failure, and then you never fail. Okay. I'm more looking at the founders instead of a plan, because I know that even myself, when I was doing the first startup, I couldn't understand any of how to do a business planning. So in my experience, it's almost impossible for the first-time entrepreneur to do a perfect plan before talking with the investors. Because after incorporating a company of myself the first time, I talked with a lot like investors or mentors. Maybe I spent more than 3 years to really understand what is the viable plan, what is not a viable plan. This is like, I should say that we should have at least 3 years to understand. So I'm more focused on the talents who are aspiring to do something very big. And then one of the things is actually Antori is one of the companies that are missing there in Ghana. And actually I committed the investment when she told me like, I want to do something related to payment for education. But I committed already. So this is my step. But of course, a lot of C-level investors, they need a traction. traction means $10,000 revenue. So there is a kind of some of the mentor type of the business. And some is more like a financial or hands-off type of business. So it's maybe some of the special case. But I know that the Zoom lot guy, here's maybe a very influential as well here. Here's a more focus on the founders as well instead of the brand itself.
You said that you also invest in Logi, right? So my question is, why do you think that you should invest in Logi? But and what's the factor that identify Logi between the other side, which is similar?
Okay. Maybe two things. The number one is because of the founder. He's very impressive. The second is, how to say, I can make some of the hands-on to navigate him to the better way. Because he's a pure Vietnamese. He doesn't have any of the knowledge of how to expand his business to the other countries, for example, or how to raise the money, for example. But I know that, right? So I'm very confident that I can help him in some way.
I have no questions for you.
Okay.
But I have a recommend for you. Your idea. When you come to Vietnam, you have difficult situation. Difficult to find a developer, partner, and co-founder. Maybe spend at least 1 year to find a super guy. But now,